We'd like to sincerely thank our Patreon supporters.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are at the Okeechobee property, and winter is starting to knock at our door. And as I've mentioned in some of the past videos, like I got to start getting ready. And one of the baby steps towards getting ready is getting their boxes ready for winter. As you know, the boxes in the enclosures are missing these strips for insulation. So what I'm starting to do now is I have some extra boxes, extra long and the short boxes, and I'm putting the flaps on, and these are screwed from the back side. So I take the lids off, and it has the flaps and airspace. The longer boxes actually have a larger airspace, and these flaps move freely when the animal comes in and out. And by having 2 layers of flaps, sometimes, you know, one can get caught a little weird, but the other one is creating a good seal. As I'm doing this, I'm also screwing the heat mats. I think we're gonna have to video the next one I do. The heat mats, top and bottom in the enclosures. I'm labeling them, which one is the bottom and which one is the top, so I know when I plug them into our outlets, because the bottom heat mats will go on when we hit a certain temperature, and I won't use the top heat mats until another temperature. And we'll decide all that with the heat gun out here, because this property, again, is a slightly different latitude than the other property. And if it gets too cold, then we're boarding up the boxes and bringing them inside the shop. They'll all go inside. Another thing that I'm going to do today is, I know we just put that shade cloth up, but now heat is not a concern. Right now, I feel like it's normal sunny days, and I mean, I think I saw 68 one night already, but I'd say on average, we're like 73, 74 at night. Still cool. It's what my house is at, air conditioned. So I want the flaps on the boxes first, but I want them to be able to go right outside and get warmed up every day, and I don't need that shade cloth up anymore. So we're gonna we'll take the shade cloth down, properly label it, and store it away until next spring. All right, I should be working on finishing up those cages, but it's drizzling right now, and it's a little too wet to pour concrete. So I think I'm gonna climb up on the roof and peel back those shade tarps. It's no longer blistering hot. It still can get hot during the day. Like right now is a rainy day, so it's mildly cool. But I don't need that shade sail over their water. I think I'll leave it on the hallway for a little bit longer in case we do have a warm day. I have some shade to work in, but I'm gonna pull it away from the animals. They no longer need that little bit of shade. And I'm gonna jump up there with my manly pail and my drill and roll it up and label it so it's ready for next spring. And Pete, you gonna help me? Cool, thanks. All right, I have row 2, row 1. I'll put some blue tape around them and label them. Tape won't stick to it, so it'll be ready to go back up next spring. But now the roofs are exposed. They're gonna get more sunlight and be able to warm up quicker in the morning. I know it's funny that we had just put this up, and I'm sure somebody's gonna have something to say about it, but if it only gave them 2 weeks of relief and the hottest of that heat, they needed it. They needed it. And I think we'll leave this up this winter, but there's no guarantees. Maybe that'll have to get removed as well to get as much sun on these animals as possible. I know this is another concern, and I mentioned it in previous videos. The exposure we have with all the cow pasture where wind can accelerate, and I wonder about the cold wind coming through. And I know there is a wind blocker And then there's those corrugated panels that they would use in like a greenhouse or something like that. I think that'll get really pricey. Oh, there's a bald eagle flying by right there. Not a lot of them around here, so pretty cool to see. Also, since I got this property, I've been seeing cubbies of quail, like 3 to 5 birds. Today I saw a couple groups of like 30 or more, massive groups. But maybe some of the local hunt clubs are letting go quail on their property, and there's just more quail around, or maybe they're getting away from those hunt properties and finding security on a property like mine where nobody's shooting at them. And I won't. I know you guys see me feed squirrels and stuff to my animals. I won't mess with the quail at all. I don't know how well they replenish their populations, and I know a lot of wildlife depends on them. So I'm not gonna mess with them. I'll let the people that are hunting them for food with licenses and all that stuff, like I won't mess with them. I'll breed my own quail. But I still have to take, we didn't get shade sail on the rock monitor row, so we still have the burlap up there. That's the last thing I need to take down, and that'll just get stored away with the other burlap for whatever future project we have where we need to put shade on something. And then we need to start switching out hide boxes. Like I was showing you before, those hide boxes that I have with the heat mats and the diatomaceous earth in them and the flaps, like I could switch out Lily's hide box and put one that's ready for winter, and she'll start using it. And then I can fix hers up and then move it into Pinky's, and so on and so forth, and just work my way down the row and get everyone to start using their hide boxes, because even those flaps are going to help them. This is actually funny. If you guys remember in that past video, we had put Forrest with that young female black dragon. You could see his determination. He's looking for her, and he is digging by the door. He is digging in his corner. So he wants to get to her so bad that that he's digging all along that wall. Hey buddy, how we doing? You okay? It's funny, he's looking down. Maybe he's looking to see if we're bringing him a girlfriend or not. He keeps eyeballing down. It's not a warm day. It's actually a pretty cool day. Not cool, just I guess anything less than 95 degrees feels cool to me now. All right, I'm gonna get to work on that burlap. Okay, I've got Adam over here helping me today, and while I have a little muscle, we are going to pull some of these hide boxes out. I know that, oh, look at this. Pinky is actually in her hide box. So I said that we were gonna take Pinky's hide box. I was gonna take a couple of these long ones out from animals that aren't using them. We could probably take Pinky's and put the permanent one in there, and she'll probably go right into the permanent one. Remember, I want these animals to start using these new hide boxes. So I would like to pull some of the, I can tell you for sure, the Guru female is not using hers, and the Sulfur female is not using hers. So we can pull those two out. Tonight, I will do the flaps and the heat pads and the wiring and stuff like that, and get those two ready for them. So we're gonna put the 4 that I have done in Enclosures, and we're gonna pull as many as we can out so I can do them tonight and get them ready for, I think, tomorrow when my mom's here. She's gonna be my muscle to help me swap a couple more out. Okay, we pulled 6 boxes out of the Enclosures altogether. So we have these 2 long ones and then these 4 short boxes. We already replaced Blackbeard and Jane's, and then we put some short ones in where some of the smaller water monitors were going to be, because they didn't quite need all of that space. And now I need to get all these ready for the heat mats and put that diatomaceous earth in there. There's a cage that I put a loose lid in for that temporary pairing of that female black dragon. So it shows you how much I sprinkled all around in there. So any ticks or ants or anything that could get in that box, this stuff will get to them. And it's harmless. This is food grade, so we can eat it. So it's not harmful to the animal. And that shows the heat mat on the top and on the bottom. So I just need to screw this lid down. I'm gonna go with all the lids. That way they're sealed as much as possible. Really the only place any cool air can go in is where those wires are, which is a pretty tight opening. And if one of the monitors, you know, depending on how he walks through, I mean, flaps are pretty dang good about sealing, but there is a little crack there, and there could be a little crack on the backside. But all in all, it's pretty good. And we are gonna stay on top of, with thermostats, watching the temperature inside of these boxes this winter. So I'll show you after I change out a couple more. All right, it's, I think I have 3 full days, well, 3.5 days until the first significant cold snap. I think it gets 62 degrees that night. It's mid 70s every night up until then. It's already windy, so you can see some sort of front is having some conflict, but I think this is a last warm front pushing up against that cool front. So we have a couple days, although it could be rainy while we're trying to get this work done. I have all the gray pipe to run the electrical for these enclosures that we pulled out from the other property. I would like my main power to come in here, but that could be a problem with the water feature. Maybe we'll have a crossover. Maybe the main power will come in right here on the middle of this wall and cross over above and drop down, and then run down this main stem and horseshoe around to the hallways. And I'll show you what I mean by horseshoe back around. I pulled the flex that I already have my wires in from the other property, and I've already figured out my middle and ran it all the way down to the first box. Now there's no wire in the gray pipe heading that way. The other property didn't have these blocks to elevate these. It didn't need it. Maybe I built my boxes kind of around that elevation, and it seems to be a problem with some of the boxes. So I need to elevate some of them. But that's fine, little lift blocks. Only thing I really don't like is the animals climbing on this, but if I have to add more blocks or something to stiffen that up with a strap, then I'll do it. It is what it is. It'll be hidden behind plants and everything else as we get going. Now I still have this side. There is a young female blackthroat on this side, and I will clean her water after I finish running this water. I don't want pressure treated wood soaking in her water with chemicals. She's hiding. I don't think we have to worry about her coming out. So I still need to strap and run this wire to her junction box. So the main electrical coming down this hallway and then shoots over the back door and then feeds that other leg. Look at Frosty, he's up on top of his door. He had some hard-boiled eggs this morning. I hit all the monitors with some, well, I guess soft-boiled eggs this morning. So they're just all out enjoying the sun, having a good old day. Won't it be nice to get back to just monitor content? And I've been putting more plants in the enclosures, but that may be for another video. I'm gonna keep plugging away with the electrical. We also have, I think 4 or 5 more hide boxes that don't have flaps, and or the flaps were hastily put on backwards. He doesn't have an upper heat mat. Even Lily doesn't have hers. So I think as it gets a little darker and I can't work out here, I'll move into the shop area and at least get 2 or 3 of those done tonight. And then I can transfer them with animals, get the other boxes, do the other ones tomorrow afternoon. But that's what I'm working on today. Okay guys, it's the end of the day. I've got, well, I showed you that wire that was crossing over. I think this is a good enclosure to go look at. I now have the outlets. Those guys are totally wired up. None of this is hot right now, but I've got every one except for one enclosure done. Here, this is good. Or this one. Let's show you. So that box is done. The top outlet is the top heat mat. That's the bottom heat mat, and it's the same on every one. And this would be the only box I did not label which cord was the top or bottom. In fact, I had to look inside the flaps to know, but every other box has it written on it. So all the boxes are wired. There's only one enclosure I didn't do, and that's where Forest and Ivy are together. In fact, trying to get that latched. They were just mating, so I didn't want to disturb that. But he's leaving her alone right now, and the wires are just hanging out of the box right now. Again, not hot. There's nothing feeding that. He's sniffing that old squirrel skull that's on the ground. It's kind of funny. Doing some waters, and so now I'm going to switch gears and get a couple of those hide boxes done this evening, and tomorrow I will have this entire side to do, and I'll show you how I'm doing those a little different. So this is that female white throat that's in here, a young one, like a yearling. And so the electric has to feed, it's a totally separate zone, but along this backbone of the enclosures has to be the outlet for that side as well. So what I'm doing is I put that same 4x4 block there to lift this up, and then I put a 2x4 behind it. And what I'm going to do is, see if I can grab a sample box. Just boxes that we cut off from the old house. Right, Pete? He's loving it today. It's nice and windy. So on this side, we'll only have to screw these on, and then the gray pipe, I think, will interrupt that 2x4 that's there. There's a 2x4 that gets screwed on there, or I'm gonna have to paddle bit the gray pipe through a 2x4. Won't be much left to a 2x4 once I put a bit through it, but that's how we'll run the electric on this side. It's gonna be a lot easier. I think it may even make it, oh, here you go, next to Ferocious's enclosure. He's turning out to be pretty social. Anytime I walk by, he shoots right over to me. And he's gaining his weight back. He looks a lot better. Hey, buddy. I know, filming through the screen like I said I wouldn't. Well, you know what? That box, it's right about that height. I bet you it's gonna go right through there. Maybe we can get it to miss. Oh no, it's gonna be that flush. I don't know. Maybe I can twist the pipe out and go around the 2x4. What? It's not food? There's no food. So curious. I've never had white throats before, but like, they are all hanging at the doors. They've been watching me all day. Big old mosquito. Right, Frosty? Frosty's getting a little further into his shed. You can see how good he's looking. He is going to be sharp. They all got hard-boiled eggs. I think I already said that this morning. I didn't get it on film, but I walked out of one of the enclosures and there was a big old black racer in the hallway. And Pete, I think he was laying inside of this enclosure. So I think I walked out of here. There was a big black racer, and then I saw at the corner of my eye that Pete was laying in the mud inside this enclosure. And I said, "Stay there, Pete." And of course he jumped out, and the black racer actually struck at him on the hallway. Of course, scared Pete to death. He's always been afraid of snakes. Maybe he got bit when he was a puppy and I never saw it, but he doesn't want anything to do with snakes. In fact, if there's a snake shed in the yard, he will walk way around it. He'll give it a wide berth. But once we have this whole horseshoe of outlets done, I will do something that you're never supposed to do, is I will make a male to male prong to feed an extension cord into, and then that will temporarily give power to this section. We only need the bottom heat mats for this cold front, and then we'll race to get our electric dug and fed over here. And I'm gonna get on those boxes. All right, guys, I got one box done already. It's on the golf cart. Got the 2 heat pads in it, and I want to show you guys how I put it together. I just saw a comment on the Reptiles and Custom Enclosures page on Facebook, and a guy from Florida was asking if anybody kept animals outside all year round in Florida. And to me, I'm like, I'm all over that page. My stuff's all over there. Like, why doesn't he know? And everyone's comments were like, it's Florida, of course you can keep outside year round. Florida is drastically different. It's a very long state, and South Florida is very different from North Florida. I don't, even with the way I'm doing these hide boxes, I couldn't keep outside in North Florida in the winter. People were saying comments like, it never gets below blah, blah, blah. There were 3 nights below 30 last year, and I don't know, I think 2 or 3 below freezing in Jupiter, like within a mile of the coast, the year before. So it can get cold at night, and the animals can't handle that. So if your hide box isn't proper and it doesn't seal and insulate them, it's not gonna cut it. They're gonna get a respiratory infection and then slowly die if not treated. So I'm gonna unscrew the lid from this box. So this was just thrown together to get the animals into their enclosures. I've been sneaking them out, and the ones that I can't handle, I will move their hide box over with them in it, and then put the new one in the proper location, and then unscrew the lid on theirs and walk away. So then they'll feel wide open and not secure in their hide box anymore, and then go and crawl into the new one. Then I can pull the old one out. So easy, non-stressful way of doing that. I'm gonna pull the lid off, and I'm gonna show you guys how I seal this up. Okay, the lid is off, and I kept it in the same direction. And now I'm gonna inspect for anything. I don't know if you guys have seen my Instagram page, but I've been posting that I've been finding a lot of black widow spiders on this property. Quite a few of them. Little mud dabbler nest. It's just it's a mud wasp that doesn't sting, but it builds that little nest and puts caterpillars in there for its larvae to eat, and then they hatch out. But other than their nests being a nuisance and everywhere, you could see, I don't know, maybe you can, on my shop ceiling, those dark brown splotches. They're mud dabbler nests. The worst is if they put it in a vent line for like your vehicle's axle or some sort of breather line for some machinery, they'll actually clog it up and cause a problem. So I need to get the heat mat on the bottom, the heat mat on the lid, and right before I screw the mats down, I plug them in and test them. What's really interesting is I know that the ZooMed mats are one of the lesser expensive solutions for us for these heat mats. They're also a lower wattage, which just means, you know, a little bit more insulation will help it out. I think they're only 40 watts. 40 watts also means that it's not going to ever burn your animal. So I know, again, maybe I am sensitive. I don't think I'm a sensitive person, but like the comments about sponsorship, ZooMed doesn't sponsor me, but they did give me a breeder program deal on some of my supplies. And I was using their heat mats before that and very happy to receive their help. But it was for breeding and has nothing to do with YouTube, but it was very nice of them. So I'm gonna use these large fender washers, I'm sorry, screws that have the washers built in to them, if I can get one on. And I know I said that I was gonna test it before I put a screw in there. Let me pop these 4 screws in and we'll plug it in, make sure it powers up. Oh, so the story I was gonna tell. I'm really bad about starting stories and never finishing them. You guys are gonna start to notice that. At Greg O'Leary's house, when we picked up all the rock monitors, he had one of these in a hide box that flooded out. And when Adam picked it up, it was dumping water out of it. I think I used it on, it's in Lily's hide box right now. It poured water out of it. These are not made to be submerged, but it was submerged, so water found its way in. You can rinse them off. I believe they're water resistant. They have, you know, watertight fittings for the electrical and stuff. But it poured water out, and Adam's like, well, that one's garbage. I let it dry out, and I've tested it 3 separate times. I let it heat up. I let it heat up and run for about an hour and a half's time. Has 0 issues. It works. I'm sorry, I'm doing this plug while I'm talking to you guys. It works perfect. So there is an indicator light to let me know, but as you guys know with anything, something's light can indicate that it's working, and that just means the light's working. Doesn't mean what you need to work is actually working. So I'm still going to plug it in and feel for the warmth, which I feel immediately coming on. I could let it heat up more, but I'm pretty confident that that's good. But that was good to see that one actually flooded out, because I do use them in the lay boxes, and I always worry about that because I install them this side up in the lay box. Sorry, this side up in the lay box, and that's in the full rain. Well, I mean, it's covered, but the cover has slats and it allows it to rain on it. They've been fine. Every one of those were now from the lay boxes are either being used in these hide boxes or the new lay boxes, and they all still work great. So 2 years later, not a single issue with not even one of them. That's pretty awesome. So the lid one is on. I have it towards the rear a little bit because the floor one that I put in here, I am gonna put towards the rear as well. When an animal goes into its hide box, guess where it's gonna go for security? It's gonna go as far back as it can, because that's where it feels the safest. So why not have the roof heat is gonna be just right above them, so that animal is laying there and they're gonna get the radiant heat from the bottom. And then, as I would say, anything below 55 degrees, I'll probably turn the top one on, and then it'll create some warmth above it, as well as obviously the flaps insulating it. These hide boxes are really too big. Again, I'm using these larger ones because the water monitors breed inside of their hide boxes so often that especially the shy ones. I don't want to eliminate that. It hasn't been a problem yet. We are going to test with the heat gun this winter here at this property and make sure we have no problems. If I have a problem, I will probably quickly buy some lengths of 2x12 and put a cross section in there right there, and then push the animal to the front just for the winter, and actually just move its heat source and confine it to a smaller area so the heat is working in a smaller area, which I could do on one sunny day. I could do almost all the heat boxes and shrink them down in size to sorry guys. All right, so I'm gonna test this bottom heat mat, then I'm gonna show you how I do the flaps. Okay, I have all of the flaps cut for the next 4 boxes, and those are the inside flaps and the outside flaps. This board, the inside flap gets stapled on it, and then we're gonna screw this one in from the back side. Once in the summertime, when we remove the lid, I will have just those 2 screws right there and there to take the whole thing off, and then they have no flaps in the summertime, so we can interact with the animals better. Nice and toasty. So both heat mats, oh, that's funny. So that brown anole with the red head right there was trying to eat this mud dabbler. That's actually that non-stinging wasp. I don't know why it's hurting on the ground. I didn't do anything to it. But that anole was trying to eat it. I just disturbed him. Okay, well, let's get, now the opening is 12 inches, but the inside flap I have cut to 14. I'm gonna center it and then just get it stapled on, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so now, obviously, if this 1x4 is even with the opening, you see the flap's a little high. So I don't worry about how well this 1x4 is sealing when we put the lid on. We're gonna level with the next ones. Oh, and you can also see, I just put 6 staples in it just to hold the flap, because you'll see in the next step how it gets very secured. So I'm gonna lower that until I like how it's sealing. It looks pretty good on, it could move freely and you can barely see daylight. So now I'm gonna screw it from the back side. Okay, now it's screwed on and it moves freely, but is very close. You'll see as it warms up, it's gonna level out. It's just barely scraping the ground. Now I also have my other screws already on the back side for the spacer. This board is 1x4. I may need 2 hands for. I think I can get it in there while holding the camera. Now this one, we do want even with the 2x12. Because when we put our plywood on, I want to seal that up. So this one gets screwed on from the backside, and then we will staple on the next flap to the front of this. Okay, the 6 staples are on there, and then now you see how tight it is. A perfect seal. It really is perfect. By installing the wood and then adjusting your flaps, you can get it just right before you staple it, and you don't have a whole mess of scissor trimming. I mean, look how good it is on the side. These are gonna move freely. And then also notice I do 4 skinny flaps on the first sheet, and I do 3 big flaps on the back sheet. If you did the same number front and back, you would be lining up that air gap and creating an easier way for the air to flow. So even if, you know, obviously cold air is gonna get through these little places, it still has to meander. Like on the inside, look how good the inside is sealing. It's gonna have to meander and find its way through there. And by slowing down the cold air from getting in also allows it to change temperature before it hits the warm air inside, and will only help it. So now this is again, this was a little difficult with the one-handed, there we go. The finish strip for the outside. We want it to seal with the plywood perfectly, and then I will screw these in tight and then finish screwing in the two that I didn't finish from the back side. And then the next step is going to be running the wires through the box. So depending on how the box sits in the enclosure, if the wall is here along this side, the wires are going to need to pop out over here on the left. But this one is going to be for Alexander's enclosure, and his needs to pop out on the right side. So I'm going to take, I changed the bit on it, a 3/8 inch drill bit, and as close to the top as possible, I'm gonna drill 2 holes, one for the lower and then upper wire. And we wanna keep this very tight because this is another way for cold air to get in. So I've drilled the 2 holes right up by the top, and then I'm gonna take this multi-tool and remove the top on the edge of those 2 holes and then clean it up. And for those of you, I know I just said I was going to use a multi-tool, but if you're not familiar, it literally just vibrates that blade at a really high speed. So you can plunge that bit into something and it's cut. So it was able to quickly just cut that and cut that right there. And now I have 2 perfect channels for the bottom wire, which I will label on the top plywood, and then the top. Now, not worrying about that little bit of sawdust there. It doesn't bother me. They're gonna track plenty of dirt in there. The next thing is the diatomaceous earth, which is gonna kill ticks, spiders, ants, everything that can cause a problem. And what gets stuck on the ground, they're gonna get wet. They don't normally poop in their box, but it's a possibility. I try to get a lot stuck up on the corners because any insects are gonna explore and get onto those corners. So I get along the sides, and I always try to get a bunch up in the corner. So that's about how much I'll put into a box. Again, it's not a poison, it's food grade, they can eat it. It does not harm them. So it's, to me, the smartest choice for insect control inside of their hide boxes. Now I'm going to flip the lid on top, see if I can't do it one-handed. It is 3/4 pressure treated plywood, so it's still on the heavy side. Don't know if that. And then we got to remember the top is the one closest to us. Yeah, not very graceful doing this one-handed. I'm gonna pull it over a little bit that way. Okay, so we know that the top is closest to us. Again, quite a bit easier with 2 hands. My screws should line up quite easily. And when it's screwed down, we should have a good seal on the front. Okay, it's all together, and it's got a good airtight seal up top, a good seal against its 1x4. The flaps all move freely and seal well. And the wires are coming out the correct side for this enclosure. For the purpose of moving it, I'll pull the wires around Stick them inside the door so they're not a trip hazard. Let them stay like that. Now, these screws, these coated exterior screws that I'm using on the lid, it's just a gray coated exterior screw. They can still corrode, and I don't like the fact where they're countersunk in there real low, there's gonna get mud and dirt and everything packed in them, and then when I try to remove the lid, they're gonna strip. So what I wanna do later, again, I mean, stretching that money as far as I can right now to get all this done, I will go back with stainless hardware with these recessed washers. It recesses the screw head, but the washer will sit over this. So the screw is no longer cutting into the plywood. It'll actually grab the plywood better. So later on, we want to add another 3/4 inch of thickness, so another sheet of plywood on the top of every hide box. That way the lid is 1.5 inches, the walls are 1.5 inches, everything has that 1.5 inches of insulation on everything. So even as winter is going on, I'm going to start swapping that out on these boxes, because it's really only adding additional. And then I will switch them out to this stainless hardware that, or I might even use a hex head bolt with a washer that's a smaller diameter. So we can open these up, and this can happen over and over and over, and the screw won't lose its integrity. Because if we need to treat an animal or get to an animal inside, we've got to undo all these screws. So these screws could get undone over and over. These things are not going to last. They're made to be put in and left alone. But I've got one more box to go on this load, and then after that I have two more boxes. Yeah, one more on this load, but I've already got all my flaps cut, all my wood is cut, and it'll be like an assembly line. Although I say quickly, it's probably almost lunchtime, and I've taken care of some animals, and I've done 2 hide boxes. That's just how long it takes, especially with filming. So I'm gonna get this last box done, and I've got to get back to that electrical. All right, guys, it's Saturday, and tomorrow is Sunday, and the day that we're supposed to get down to 60 at night. So again, rushing to get this stuff done. This is where the power's gonna come in, but this is definitely not how it's gonna look. This is just mocked up for me to get power to them initially. I'll do a box right here that has 4 entry points, and so I think there won't be one with 3. Well, and I'll have the main power coming in, and it'll be a covered box, and I will use 4 of these Casa switches, and I'll use 2 top and bottom for the left enclosures, and then 2 for the top and bottom. There should be, or used to be, a B on that one. I will rewrite that, and a T for top. Those can be controlled by my phone via like Wi-Fi, and I will be able to look at the weather even if I'm out of town and turn the uppers on. There's also, when I run the wire for this, there will be a separate wire ran for all the lay boxes, and I'll do all that right. So the way I have this stubbed out right here, I can quickly put one of those 90s and then go to gray flex to this box that I'll install. I left plenty of wire to do that. This is a pigtail that I wired in, so I am going to, for now, run an extension cord from the shop over to here and power these. I will use a very large, heavy-duty extension cord. I know it's a lot of power, but it's not crazy. They're only 40 watts. By the time we get into winter where we need to run the uppers, I will have already ran the permanent electric. But in this hallway, and yes, we had insane rain last night, and we have water on the floor again. After getting these guys ready for winter, and finishing these next 3 enclosures at the end of this hallway, that is the very first thing I'm gonna do, is get this hallway done. The plumbing and the white rock, I am sick and tired of walking in water. But of course, as soon as I get the rocks in here and the water, I won't be working in this hallway. We'll be working over there where we'll probably have another water problem until it's done. But every enclosure has a hide box. I think, what's this girl? This girl was the last. The sulfur female was the very last. You're not gonna see her. She's in her lay box right now. But she was the very last one to get an electrical outlet and her hide box. So tomorrow, I should actually tonight, pick her up out of her lay box and show her that hide box. The lay box has an entry. She's going to choose the most secure place to hide, and the one with an entry point is not the most secure. So as soon as she learns about the hide box, she's not gonna hide in her lay box anymore. But every outlet is done down this hallway. It feels really, really good to have all this done. And lastly, I need to get power to the 3 enclosures that have the black throats and Ferocious, the white throat. It's really been funny. Him and Blackbeard have been having hissing matches back and forth at each other. So pretty soon I need to move. I mean, Ferocious is a very mature male white throat, and of course there's giant Blackbeard sitting right there. He's not he's gonna start hissing for us. Hey, big boy. He's been letting Ferocious know who's the boss. So to get power to these guys, I am not gonna gray pipe this hallway. Obviously I can't, because the infrastructure is not all there. And so you guys can see, this has been my daily concern right now, that Bubba is gaining his weight back. And today he just, what? You're gonna hiss at me? That's not like you. Every other day he's been getting hit with a meal. Today he just ate a quail. So I know he's still scrawny, but he's got food in his belly, and he's been laying out in the sun, and he's digesting that food. So we're gonna go, and he's still super alert and bright-eyed. We're gonna keep this program probably through the cold snap, and maybe during the cold snap we'll get him to Dr. Mike and get him treated for worms, just to eliminate that and get any other opinions that Dr. Mike may have for this lovely monitor. You're so cool. You're okay, buddy. I'll let you enjoy that afternoon sun. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do to get power to these black throats and white throats. On the backside of Pinky's outlet, I ran a 3-way, and from that 3-way, I put a little extension cord piece right there. I'll put a plug end on it, and once I put the plug end, I'll put a 3-way on it, and I will just keep making little lengths of extension cord to the next cage where I can plug them in. I did that temporarily at the other house until I could get everything hardwired, and I didn't have any problems. I I tied it to the screen. I made it so nobody could like pull a plug apart and get their claw or something like that in there and get shocked. And I'll even electric tape if I have to just get all that stuff secured. But it will be very, very temporary. I will get it hardwired ASAP. But I'll get that done tomorrow, and I'll show you guys the final product, and maybe even we'll check in with everybody on that cold night. All right, guys. Well, we made it through the very first night. Got down to 60 degrees last night, and I guess everyone's good. I haven't put my hands on everybody, but I kind of had a slow start this morning because I pushed really hard yesterday and actually ended up hurting my knee. So now I'm wearing a brace. Didn't hurt it working hard. I hurt it just walking and somehow or another twisted it. But yesterday I got a little ambitious and decided to get the other switch box on and the flex and everything. So when we run the permanent power, whether it comes from above, it'll drop into this box, or below, this box has an entry point right here. So I can switch that plug and feed power into this box. Once it has the smart switches in it, we'll feed upper and lower for this horseshoe, and then this box will feed power to this horseshoe. And I had a wiring issue. Oh my gosh. Just at first I had a hot wire that wasn't right in the wire twists, and wasn't getting power to the smart switches. Then I had a neutral wire that wasn't doing it, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I ended up taking it all apart like 3 times before I got it all, pulled the tester out here and started messing around with it. And I just put regular switches in there for last night. I think the smart switches for this side will come on Wednesday, and I will get them all set up where right now I have to physically throw a switch, but later on I'll be able to, anywhere I am, just do it through my phone and get that done. So right now I bought 100 foot of very heavy extension cord. I mean, if you see the cord I'm using compared to a normal extension cord, because it's more efficient at pulling power for that 100 feet up into the shop. And I'll show you how I'm feeding the power, because it's not going into just a regular plug. It's a higher amperage breaker. It's actually the RV plug that's in this pole barn. So I took my 50 foot, cut the end off of it, which I'll have to put a regular end on it later, and put an RV plug on the end of it, which is plugging right into the box. So this is what we're gonna pull our power later for out there. It's 30 amps service, it's heavier gauge, and I think I may even pull one outlet or something like that over to the chickens for either fans, which will be a summertime draw. These cages will only be using heat mats in the lay boxes during the winter, or sorry, during the summer, or maybe not, depending on what our heat gun tells us. And so they'll pull power at different times. Really, you're not gonna be running the fans during the winter for the chickens. They're gonna be fine. But yeah, last night 60, tonight's 52. So we may even turn on the uppers tonight. So the last thing I'm gonna do today is block off any of the lay box entries. Like we have onyx and sapphire in this enclosure. I don't know if one of the black throats is using the lay box as a hide. Black throats are definitely more, 60 degrees is fine for them for one night. So neither one is in here. She's not gravid, so I'm gonna block that off. I don't need her going in there. I need them choosing, which they are. I just unplugged it, so that heat mat's probably still warm in there. But everybody else that was in their boxes, I think, yeah, I got that one to plug up. Ferocious is not that he needs a lay box, he's a male, but I'll block his off, and I think the sulfur female, a couple of them. I just got to make sure that they don't choose that box as a hide at the end of the day, and we're good to go. And for most of the part, the cages, the animals are already out enjoying the sun right now. All right, guys. I think next video is going to be the plumbing. I already have plans to pull all the white rock from the hallways at the other house and finish the demo work over there. But next video is probably going to be getting the plumbing in here so we can fix this hallway and be done with it once and for all. All right, guys, until next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. See you soon.